just gradually letting people into the webinar, so bear with us a moment whilst everybody can come on in. Getting all these pings in my ears, so I can hear everybody arriving. So good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi there, how are you doing?
Good, Kerry, and yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Steve. All right, thank you. Bearing up.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey, hi, Ravi. Yeah, good, thank you. Good. Just letting everybody in and saying hello at the moment. So,
Hi all on this sunny afternoon.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
You back in Mexico, Mark?
No, the joys of working from home, I've discovered, is it's Ascot week this week. So I've actually watched virtually every race at Ascot.
Yeah, I was supposed to be at Ladies' Day today. It's not been quite such an exciting day, that's for sure. So, okay, right. So I think it's a good time to kick off. People will carry on joining us. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining GSA today. And I don't know why I'm echoing so badly.
Is that your ride?
That's not my road, no.
That's NHS responder was on the list.
Right, something's going crazy. Is that better? Has everything calmed down on the tech front now? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so start again. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kerry Hallard and I'm the Chief Exec of the GSA. Blimey, I hate this term unprecedented times because I've heard it far, far too many times, but it has been absolutely bonkers, hasn't it? And behind the scenes, we've been doing loads of work at the GSA to support our members and to support the industry. What I want to do is share with you today not so much what we have done and what's gone on, but a little more of a look to the future. So our slogan for the foreseeable future is rethinking sourcing and restarting the UK. And I'll come into detail as to why that is our slogan. So some industries were ready for it. Some stepped up to deliver at really big time. Industries helped in all sorts of different ways. But what I want to do, first of all, is just actually go to a panel discussion and speak to some of our colleagues in the industry as to how well did the global strategic sourcing industry respond. So everybody that isn't actually on that panel, can I ask you to mute, because I'm getting all the wonderful background noises that you get when you've got kids running in the background and dogs barking and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't mind muting if you're not speaking at the moment, that would be great. So on our panel, we have got, and I'd like to welcome and do say hello, Graham Matheson, who is the outsource lead for John Lewis. Graham, are you here?
I'm with you, yes. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Lovely to see you again, Graham, and so soon. So it's becoming a common occurrence, isn't it? Right. Yeah. Sunita Irani, who's Senior Contracts Manager at the BBC. Are you with us for the buyer's view?
I am. Hello.
Excellent, Sunita. Lovely to see you again. Again, saw you earlier on today, so that's great. Right, Mark, we've already seen you. And Rick.
Yep, I'm here. Hi.
Excellent. Right. Rick is ex-Hackett, ex-ICUS and founder of Squad Red. So he's going to give us the advisor's perspective. So I may as well go in order of intros there. Graham, so do you want to give us a quick level overview of what you've seen at John Lewis, how you believe your partners, so let's look at this really from a partnering and strategic sourcing perspective if we can, you know, how quickly did they mobilize, and how good's the experience been?
I think for me, Kerry, and for anyone that's listening, it was remarkable how quickly our partners and our strategic suppliers got on board with our desire, I guess, at the very start of this, to start putting advisor and partner welfare and well-being at the heart of our plans. So we very quickly deployed looking at our most vulnerable partners, our most vulnerable work types as well, and working out how could we put those work types into safe places and start to actively push our advisor population out of the centres and into home working. And I think it took us about 17 days to get from a place where we had nobody working from home to about 92% of our staff working from home. And it's fair to say that we couldn't have done that without our suppliers reacting very quickly. And I guess I'm kind of heartened to see that when I picked up the phone to talk to our suppliers, they were already working on plans to do that. And if I'm honest, I think they would have cracked on with those plans even without our encouragement.
Oh, that is good to hear. That's good to hear. And what about your global footprint in that respect? Was there equal response?
Yeah, so we have a site out in Manila that's run for us by our supplier, Supplier. We were in a slightly different place in Manila in that we weren't able to deploy working from home. But what we did do out there was quite quickly enforce social distancing. The lockdown in Manila was remarkably strict and effectively shut the site for a couple of days. But we were then able to start to introduce staff back to the site. And we've now got about 80% of our headcount in Manila back on site. And they've actually chosen to socially distance themselves away from their friends and family and are living in hotels right next to the building where the operations take place. So a remarkable level of dedication from the Supplier guys out in Manila.
Wow, that is definitely going above and beyond, isn't it? So Mark Devonshire, from your perspective, you're on the other side, you're on the service provider's perspective. Well, what have you seen and how well do you think you've been able to partner with your customers to keep the lights on and wheels of industry turning?
So I think I'd just echo Graham's comments. So I think in all of our relationships, and I look after global clients across the world, so virtually all of our relationships, we came together, worked hand in hand, client side, supplier side, and also all of our other partners. And what was competition at the time, but everyone collaborated together. Everybody did the right thing. Everybody put employees first, both client side, supplier side, and really worked out what was necessary to maintain the business. So clearly there was all sorts of challenges of moving people to work from home, technology, political, security, regulator. But in actual fact, most of that was swiftly got through, and we made it happen. We still, so out of our 68,000 people in my part of the business, we have a huge chunk of people maintaining US healthcare in hospitals, and clearly that adds a different level of complexity in terms of what you need to do with those people and really safeguarding people in critical positions. So we put in place huge amounts of PPE. We put in place premium payments for people that were at risk, private transport to hospitals, etc. So you got a whole set of complexity that we put through. But in actual fact, lockdown and work from home and protecting people was quite easy. Actually, coming out of lockdown is probably more challenging.
Yes, and we'll come on to that one in a minute. Thanks, Mark. So, Sunita, has it been equally as positive from your perspective, or have there been some challenges?
I think yes, it doesn't go without saying that there haven't been any challenges, but I think I think I can answer this in sort of twofold, really. The BBC regards the health and well-being of all staff, employees, regardless of whether you're permanent, full-time, freelancing, whatever, very highly, and this has been demonstrable throughout lockdown. It's maintained, this is a high priority. We've had regular check-ins. There's been a real regular stream of stay connected through a regular open forum with news and updates, plans for remobilisation, celebrating the ways we've learnt to sort of continue to work together, because, a huge population of the nation has been reliant heavily on content, in various ways, whether it's iPlayer or terrestrial TV or BritBox or bite size in education. So, it's really come together in being there for the nation. So, and actually, It's become a very close organisation through the innovative ways that it's demonstrated ways of content sharing and the empathy there as well. But I think first and foremost, it's put the relationship with staff right at the top there. Having said that, the relationship with the supplier base come a very close second. This has really tested true partnerships and how they've come into fruition. All the seamless teamwork across organisations, so peer-to-peer teams, especially in strategic partnerships, and people have really demonstrated, regardless of how they are, whether
participant is now joining,
whether they're a transactional, operational, strategic alignment, a certain focus has been applied during a very uncertain time. And this kind of time has really relied upon resilience, risk management, and real-time agility. But underpinning all of that, I think it's been trust, and the partnership has. The BBC has acknowledged this, and a true partnership with our providers, especially our facilities management, contact enablement, our safety and security, transmission, news partnerships, local news partnerships, and journalists across the globe. Those kind of things, those kind of partnerships have really been tested and come into fruition through all of that. So yeah, it's been twofold in response to you, but it's been a challenging, but I think there's been a lot of innovation that's come out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I must say I've seen no no faltering in the content produced by the BBC. It was like nothing's really gone on, and it's exactly the same with my Dealings with Waitrose and John Lewis. All those essential makeup supplies were delivered very well. Thank you very much. So Rick, you got the same perspective, or have you seen sort of a different view? Because obviously you look at what's going on both the buyer and service provider side. Has it been any examples of where the challenges really have been felt?
Well, I have to say that this has generally been a very it's a good news story for the sourcing industry. I think it's been a massive stress test, and we talk to dozens of all the leading suppliers and dozens of clients just in our day-to-day business, and the story generally is the one that you've just heard, that suppliers have acted in a partnership spirit, done whatever it takes, gone beyond the contract, and made sure that what needs to be done has been done. So from that point of view, I think the story is very consistent. I've heard of probably only one or two stories where clients have been disappointed with the response to their suppliers, and I think that those were mainly around communication rather than substance, actually, in the sense that they reacted in a way that probably had to be done, but wasn't well communicated. So no, I think I can only concur with what's been said, and I think the reaction of the sourcing industry in general has been much more effective and much more flexible than probably anyone would have imagined before this started. So the speed with which delivery models were changed. We've heard about the move to work from home, which John Lewis experienced. It's been quite extraordinary, and couldn't have happened without a crisis, in a sense. It wouldn't have happened. So you couldn't have moved to that model without having to, sort of thing, in that kind of time scale. So I think it's been a real wake up call. And as Sunita said, I think it'll be it's demonstrated a huge amount of innovation, and I think that'll lead to more innovation in the future as well.
Yeah, excellent. So now I think I want to really look at this whole title of Rethinking Sourcing and Restarting UK. And because, Graham, you haven't said anything for a while, I'm going to go back to you. What role do you think sourcing is going to have in helping John Lewis in its restarting strategy? And how far are you into your restarting strategy, or are you still in full crisis mode?
So I'm glad to say, Kerry, that we are into our restart strategy. We've now reopened 2 stores. Our stores in Poole and Kingston reopened at the start of this week. And I'm glad to say that we're reporting remarkably long queues and good sales outside both of those stores, which is always good. We are, though, in the middle of our summer clearance sale, so if anyone feels like picking up a bargain, now's the time to do it. Our plans, though, are changing, almost day by day. Within the last few hours, we've had an announcement from the Scottish Government that stores in Scotland can reopen from the 29th of June. That will change some of our plans around about reopening some of our stores. We did see a real shift in customer behaviour when we closed our stores. There was some trepidation about whether or not all of that trade would shift automatically to online, or whether or not it would just die off. I'm glad to say that a huge amount of that trade did shift to online. The uncertainty, though, is that now we are reopening our stores. We don't know how much of it will stick online and how much of it will go back to branches. So normally by now, I'm in a fairly strong position about having end of year plans and plans in place for our peak trading as we approach Black Friday. I think it's fair to say that this year I'm probably not going to have those plans finalised until well through into July, or potentially into the start of August, as we start to understand what that rollout of store openings looks like. The couple of key messages that we're holding at the heart of all of that store reopening activity and all of that restart activity is it's all about safety. It's all about customer safety and partner safety. So that's about deploying physical PPE, making sure that we have social distancing, making sure that we have partners at the entrance to the stores and at the entrance to our Waitrose shops to make sure that we are making customers and other partners aware of social distancing where it's in place. So plans are happening, but it's fair to say it's taking a fair amount of impact across our outsourced estate as well. We run 2 in-house contact centres, 4 outsourced contact centres, and realistically they are now operating at about a third of their actual physical capacity. That leaves us with some real challenges about working from home, not least of which is making sure that the partners and the advisors that we have working from home still feel part of the culture. And to come back to a couple of the comments Sunita was making, it's been really interesting the level of interaction that we've had from advisors all the way up to our chairman around about exactly what it is that we're doing and what we're planning. And I'd like to think that as we come out of that level of engagement and transparency around what plans and strategy continues.
Okay, thank you for that. So I've just put everybody onto video. I don't know how I've managed to do that, but that's pretty good. Have I stopped sharing my screen?
No, your screen's there.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can see you all. That's amazing. So that's great. Rick, I'm going to go straight back to you. So obviously, what are you advising on at the moment? Are you in the heart of restart strategies, or?
I think it's probably too soon to say we're at the start of restart strategies. I think it's still a matter of making sure that partnerships are reacting daily to a changing landscape as we slowly come through this and start reopening. But I think there's a lot of talk now, a lot of looking to the future and how sourcing relationships will change going forward. Particularly in regard to the delivery model and the sort of spotlight this is shone on supply chains and automation and distance and everything else. So I think it's too soon to say that we're that's the focus now, but I think it's quite clearly top of mind, and I think that's what will happen in the autumn and winter as we move through this process.
Mark, would you concur? What are you doing for your clients?
So first thing is, as of today, the theme in our business is, and the phrase is, don't snap back. So I've got big teams in France, Germany, Italy, and some of the tendency is to go back to doing exactly what we did before because that's the easy option. But our pushback on clients actually is we're not going to step back to where we were because we've actually worked out different ways of delivery that are more effective and actually looking after our people. So I think that's one point to take on board. It's so easy to just resort back to what we did previously. I think encouragingly, all of our focus and all of our clients' focus is around the future. And so we, over the last 6 weeks, have had projects stopped, we've had projects ramped up, started, we've had procurement stopped, we've had procurements accelerated. Overall, we are seeing more demand than we saw pre-COVID. And that's because technology has been the enabler for everything that's happened in the last 3 months. So education, health, retail, government has changed because of technology, and we are still continuing to see that. And so technology transformation will continue. It will be accelerated. We've seen all sorts of stats from Forbes, etc., that 75% of companies will accelerate technology transformation. And as a partner, we're seeing that come to the fore. And in actual fact, we're involved in lots of discussions. We're trying to work with all those clients in a virtual manner. And that's trying to get your head around how do you actually work in that innovation creation mode in a virtual manner is a challenge. But you get used to it, actually, apart from becoming Zoom vid. You do get used to it. So we're seeing increased demand. Clearly, that's a balancing act. Every country across the world is having different challenges around COVID. So currently, South America is all over the floor with COVID. India is coming in and out of lockdown, and we'll see more of that. I think that the norm for the next 3 to 6 months is that various countries and regions within countries will go in and out of COVID, and clearly that is a challenge in terms of employee safety and just generally well-being. So.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And Sunita, what do you see happening differently with your service providers as you enter your restart strategy?
I think much of what we've seen since lockdown, probably in terms of their response, their agile response, and I think I can speak for sure of the most strategic, our STAR portfolio, in that we work in very strong alliances in true partnership, and therefore they understand the impact on the business, and therefore the relationship is very much trusted. So the onus has been on the reflection of the partnership, the trust, and really knowing the impact on the content, of the reputation, and the reach of the BBC, and therefore that's really taken into account on how service offerings have been delivered, and I think that will continue. That will continue as we mobilise, but very carefully, and I think that really underpins it for the BBC. Kerry.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you all for one quick sentence, and that is, what is your request for rethinking sourcing? What one thing would you like to see differently about sourcing as a result of COVID? Rick, you're in my eyes line, so you'll go first, please.
Can't see you, that's not fair. What's the one thing? Well, I think I think it will be around facilitating the future. If we use sourcing to facilitate the future. Mark mentioned that automation has been key to managing through this crisis, and I think that's become really clear to everybody involved. And I think the only way to automate quickly and reliably and scale is by leveraging partnerships, and that should be a really collaborative thing. So hopefully we'll move towards more future-focused contracts and relationships.
Okay, somebody's just joined. If you just joined, can you put yourself on mute, because we can hear your television or radio in the background. So not sure who that was, but please. Okay, so that's great. Graham, a build on that, please, or a completely different view.
No, I think that it's fair to say that probably we're amongst many businesses, or all businesses, when we say our technology roadmap has been effectively chucked out of the window by and large, and a number of projects have been stalled, delayed, or sacked off as a result of COVID, when we realised that perhaps not the best thing. When we look at our future strategy, yeah, and you and I spoke about this yesterday. Do we see ourselves outsourcing more or outsourcing less? I think we probably see ourselves outsourcing a roughly similar amount of work, perhaps different types of work, and certainly deploying more technology to do it. I think we've discovered that the level of, being very honest, the level of failure demands that we drive through some of our processes and policies, and the level of demand that we create for ourselves as a result of general noise. Some of it about our brand and some about our brand expectation. And I think for us, it's about developing solutions that will allow the customer to get the answer they want to that, not necessarily about stopping them engaging with us. I don't see this necessarily driving a change for John Lewis in where we deliver services from, because if I'm honest, it feels like no matter where we were delivering services from, we were going to be impacted as a result of COVID. So this isn't a geographical issue for me. It's not necessarily a kind of a headcount issue for me either. I think it's just about becoming smarter in what work we deploy where, and absolutely what technology we deploy to make sure that we can continue to deliver great customer experiences, kind of regardless of what else is going on in the world.
Okay, that's great. Sunita.
So I think in a sentence, I would say enabling and reinvigorating supplier relationships, because I think it's really tested the relationships you have with your supply base, how they've responded and how much they actually understand the impact of your organization being off air. So yeah, enabling and reinvigorating supplier relationships.
Okay, that's really good to hear. So, Mark, I did say one sentence, and you're not very good at one sentences, but if you try one sentence.
I've got five points. It is one sentence. Continue employee first and safety. Don't snap back. Continue with the great trust, and use this opportunity to really pivot to digital technology in the future.
Okay, cool. Well, I would like to say thank you very much to our panelists. Graham, do stay on and chip in at any point, and we'll hear more from Rick, Mark and Sunita when we take you through the GSA Manifesto. So thank you very much for taking part, and we'll now move on to what we've seen. So it does reflect a lot of what has actually been discussed on the panel. I have put out a few communications that actually talk about how incredibly proud I am of our industry, because I do believe we've been stress tested to the highest degree, and I do believe that we have delivered phenomenal results. Like you, Rick, I've only heard of one or two examples where people haven't been massively satisfied with their partnerships on both the buy and the service provider side. So I think we need to give ourselves a massive pat on the back as an industry, because we have enabled business continuity whilst ensuring employee safety. We have proved that working from home works, and I do believe that is going to become a new normal. Tech workers around the world were recognised by many governments as being essential services, which I think has been really, really important for global service delivery. And I think it is, in fact, the very global nature of our industry that has enabled business to prevail. I think if we had been insular in our delivery models, then we would have been in, obviously, a world of pain. Digital transformations we've all seen massively delivered at speed, and I think that's going to continue to accelerate. There will be no snapping back. Digital will keep driving forward, and yeah, we've delivered, but I think we've also delivered ethically and with a good eye on sustainability. So I think the industry has and must be applauded. So our survey shows that trust has increased. So we've moved from originally 6.7 on the scale out of 10 for trust to, first of all, 7.2. And our most recent taking on that survey is a move from about 7.2 to 7.4 on the scale. So trust has increased on both sides, both between buyers and service providers. and it continues to increase, which is great. So we, the GSA, have been requested to put together an industry response to global sourcing and to a national response to sourcing. So we have built a repository of about 25 case studies of excellent practice during COVID-19, which shows how partnerships have really delivered. And on top of that, we've got expert opinion from about 30 industry ambassadors, which we will be publishing and will be available for you all to read next week. And we'll be using that as a showcase and a point of reference for media, governments, industry to go to better understand just how important this sector is and how well this sector has performed at this time. So I believe we should take the opportunity of how well we've performed to celebrate and promote ourselves as an industry. But at the same time, I believe it is an opportunity for us to change the language of our industry once and for all. So it's an opportunity for us to make industry and governments around the world understand what this industry is really about, to get rid of some of those negative connotations of, you outsource because it's cheaper, you offshore because it's cheaper, and you're just, delivering a lower value service. It's not. It's you do these things to drive business value, to drive business continuity and resilience, as we have demonstrated in COVID-19. And more than that, I think it is an opportunity for us to actually position this industry as being front and centre to helping organisations with their restart strategies. And that's what the GSA Manifesto really proposes to do. Mark, are you getting any interference or is it just me?
No, it's fine. We can hear you loud and clear, so.
Okay, I'll take my headsets off in case that's what the issue is, getting some backdrop. Anything you'd like to add to that, Mark?
No, I think you perfectly summarised it, and I'm just conscious of time, so I'll let you carry on.
Okay, so this is our manifesto. It's not a massive difference to the manifesto that we've presented before, but it has been tweaked in light of COVID-19. So our pledge to the industry for the GSA is to positively promote a future vision of the industry, to champion a vision for the changing face of the industry, so it's a repositioning of the industry in light of COVID-19, to continue to develop and maintain world-class standards, a strong focus on upskilling talent in this industry, to promote the positive reputation of the industry whilst promoting ethical and social responsible sourcing and partnering, and then also to create a unified voice to campaign for the issues that matter the most. So that's the GSA pledge for the strategic sourcing industry, and I'll come into more detail on that. So we have witnessed that it has been collaboration that has got businesses and their partnerships and individuals and consumers through this most trying of times. And we believe it is collaboration that's going to get our industry through. So really this is a call to the industry to get on board. I think we can collaborate to really make showcase the strength of this industry and really drive the changes that we need to drive. So we believe we're going to look at new operating models. We're going to be embracing new sourcing ecosystems. We've already talked about automation and the new technology-led solutions that we've experienced and will carry on experiencing, and the new contracting models. These are all areas that GSA is going to be focusing on and developing work streams on. And we're obviously doing a call out to the community to collaborate and work with us on making these changes happen in a reality as fast as we possibly can. So yeah, there is that shout out. We want you to get on board. Whether you are new to the industry and you just want to come on board and observe and learn so that you can apply best practice, we welcome you. If you've got experience and you want to participate and share your experience, share your challenges, share your successes, we obviously welcome you. Of course, we do need membership funding. So if you can come on board and become a member, then you can really help shape our programme, or better still, come on board as a strategic partner and help steer the industry. But wherever you are, we would like you to become part of the GSA and start driving this programme of change. So our manifesto started with the pledge to positively promote our vision for the future. So we've developed a new vision statement for the industry. I'm not going to read that to you. I'll let you read that yourselves. But in this, we've got a new language set, and it is the language set that we want our industry to use to communicate what we're actually doing. So it is all about value creation, it's all about transparency, it's all about collaboration, partnership, and technology-led to deliver continuous business improvement. And we do wholeheartedly believe that we can make this industry better recognised as being a massively positive contributor to the global economy, and being front and centre in helping economies and companies with their restarting strategies. So that's our vision statement, and I do obviously invite any comments from anybody on that, whether they come to me personally, to the team, or on this chat board. So looking at the rest of the manifesto and what we're doing, maintaining world-class standards. During this period, we have made all of our best practice freely available to everyone around the world. So everyone can access the Global Strategic Sourcing Standard, which is something that we've been developing over the last 14 years. Anybody in the world can now look at that to actually help them with their restart strategies. And so that's a big commitment from the GSA to the community. We are responding given the industry response to this guide that's going to be published next week, which is something like a 50-page response document that showcases the excellence of our industry. We have a talent work stream. We are very mindful that there is going to be displaced workers, and we're hoping to attract more people to actually come and work in our industry. And we have massively reduced the cost of our training to make that training available online to help reskill individuals, bringing them into the industry, or upskill individuals that are already in the industry so they can better face the challenges that are ahead. But I'll come on to our online training a little bit more shortly. Yeah, you can expect a much bigger push on PR from the GSA as we push to really sort of like change the industry's perception and improve its reputation. And we have these active work streams that ensure that everything that we do is focused on sustainability, wellness, and inclusion and diversity. And those work streams are not just there to make a noise and do the PR piece. They are there with very tangible targets against them. So we'll come on to some of those a little bit further. And this is a global industry, and you can expect a very global lobbying force. And you'll hear more from us on that very, very soon. So I think probably one thing I don't think the GSA has done well enough in the past, and is something that we're certainly looking at changing, is within this programme is championing the UK. You know, we are really promoting that it's a global industry, and really working with partners to ensure that there isn't a massive move towards protectionism and anti-globalisation. I think that's hugely detrimental for the industry, but no doubt the Telegraph and other such publications will continue calling that way. Our research currently shows that the vast majority, 2/3, from our survey respondents, and that's fairly equal on both the buy and service provider side, plan to actually broaden their global footprints in a post-COVID-19 environment. So far we're not seeing that, but we want to, we're working against nationalistic policies, but at the same time we're going to be running a programme that is really focused on championing the great work that is actually done within the UK. So championing UK service providers, UK talent, UK startups, and of course the fabulous sourcing arrangements, which are usually the most complex sourcing arrangements, are usually signed in the UK. And we're going to be making sure that the UK is seen as the jewel in the global strategic sourcing crown. So one big part of our programme. So just to give you a snapshot of our research results, I've already told you that trust has gone up. We will, however, see, and we've got figures from our buyers, that they will be undertaking detailed contract reviews and also contract scope realignments. They believe there will be a move to working with smaller partners, and there's definitely going to be a move towards shorter contracts. By far the most resounding figure is the fact that they're going to be looking at their sourcing arrangements to drive more innovation. So there will be up to 85% have said that they expect more innovation to be prevalent straight after, well, as part of their restarting strategies, and automation also being very, very key. 85% will be looking at new contracting models. So we've taken all of these factors in to look at obviously building the programme that we're building for the GSA. And we are going to be delivering it all through webinars, think tanks, work streams, and webinars like this. So Rick, I'm going to hand over to you, if that's all right. About the strategic sourcing nature being front and centre of everything that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. Well, I mean, just briefly, I think we saw a strong trend towards strategic sourcing and a related strategic sourcing function before the COVID crisis, and that's been strengthened, I think, by the response of the industry to the crisis. And I think our survey results, if I'm right, are that 71% of buyers and 78% of supplier/advisors are predicting a stronger focus on strategic sourcing going forward. And I think that's we're going to have I believe we're going to have a round table, aren't we, in a few later in the summer, which will try to explore this in more detail. But I think if we try and figure out why that's happened now, make some assumptions on why, I think it's inevitably due to the unprecedented challenge which the industry's had to react to, and the industry has had to react beyond the contract, because the contract didn't foresee this crisis, and therefore the response to it has had to be more through the relationship than through the contract. So the response, I think, can be characterised as sort of flexibility through partnership, which is a key element of the strategic sourcing function. So there are plenty of sort of brittle prescriptive contracts around, and there are plenty of rather strained and stressed relationships. Well, there were before this crisis erupted, and what had the relationship lent on the contract, or the contract led the relationship, I think we'd have seen many more problems than we have seen. I think what's happened is the relationship and the need for action has led the contract, and that's why we've reacted so well, and that's why I think that the focus on strategic sourcing will become more prevalent going forward. We'll just move on to the next slide, Kerry. If that's the case, if that is the case, then the strategic sourcing function in organisations will need to be strengthened in the future to respond to these challenges. And the challenges are all those which are pertinent to a function which has proved itself to be at the heart of both businesses and as a result at the heart of society. And that's why a lot of the issues that you see there around sustainability and diversity, etc., are also important for the strategic sourcing function. So I suspect that we will see. I still think we're in a sort of crisis management mode now, where organisations are taking whatever action is needed to move through it. I think once we get through this, as your survey, as the survey indicated, we'll see a review of contract arrangements in terms of scope and shape and commercials, etc. My guess is there will be a period of some instability for a while when that wash-up's going on. When organisations are looking at what worked and what didn't, and how various relationships compared with each other. But once that sort of wash-up has settled down, I think that that there will be a much stronger focus on strategic partnerships, and whether that's with new organisations or existing organisations or some combination of the two, and that those relationships will be used to drive through the reshaping of delivery, which has been discussed earlier, the real focus on digitalization and flexibility. So I think it's what was a trend, like many things that have occurred recently, what was a trend before is going to be accelerated, I think, by this crisis. So I think it's a pretty exciting time for the industry and should be very, very re-energizing, actually, for everybody involved.
Absolutely agree, Rick. Thanks for that. So one of the work streams that we're bringing to the fore, and is actually a work stream that we're resurrecting, is our contracting work stream. So the first event we've got in 2 weeks' time is how do you actually take cost out of your contracts. We are mindful that obviously is a key driver for many organisations right now, but obviously not a sole driver. And then we'll be looking at new contracting models. As I said, there was stats that prove 80% of buyers are going to be looking at shorter contracts, and 55% of service providers say they'll be looking at moving to shorter contracts. So quite an interesting trend there. And an overriding request, 85% of our members are requesting us to help them move to new contracting models. So we will be running a work stream discussing all of these issues and developing best practice guidelines from that. Next week, we will be launching the best practice guide on exit. We've had one before, but this one has been revised in light of COVID-19. And within that, we'll be running an event on how you can stress test your exits and check that they're fit for purpose, so to speak. And as a result of all the other work that we're doing, GSA standard terms have been put slightly on the back burner, but we do commit to actually getting GSA standard terms of contracts over the line this year. So anybody interested in joining the contracting work stream, then please do get in touch. Mark, over to you for our tech programme.
Okay, so all of these work streams, and one of the many great things of the GSA is that these work streams are led by the council, and so directly from the members forms the agenda for the GSA, and from a buyer, supplier, and advisor side. So one of the things we identified was clearly technology is changing the world we live. That was prevalent last year. I firmly believe that is absolutely accelerating this year. But what we found was the education and reality of how do you drive technology within businesses? Does it drive business output rather than being for geeks and tech for tech's sake? We have a series of webinars and programs around education, bringing best practice, sharing examples of where technology is applied for business benefit. And the tech series currently covers cloud, so clearly one of the big winners out of the past few months has been cloud, and a vast move to cloud. We're also covering blockchain, AI, cybersecurity. We will have 5G and network transformation and some other technologies coming down. So thank you to Andrew. We've got some members of the council on the call today. Andrew Dunlop is running this programme, and I have to say the ones we've done today have been very informative, well attended, and really a great education in terms of bringing all sorts of communities together in terms of understanding a common purpose around tech. Next slide. So getting prepared for automation, and Eleanor Thompson runs or champions this work stream. So this is really about forming a think tank around automation, and it's really about forming a standard about how do we approach automation across the industry. It is clearly there are fears in the industry around displacing jobs, but it's around how do you reskill your workforces to address automation. I think automation, coming back to the pivot point earlier, automation is clearly going to accelerate over the next few months, and is indeed accelerated in the last few months. And I think it's a given in any solution now at the core. And most solutions now are not people driven, they're tool and automation driven. Clearly, also, we will have Kerry's favourite is the Drop the Bot campaign, that if any of you were at the seminar back in October, November, it was how do we actually talk about automation professionally and drop the word the bot, because it demeans the value of what we're trying to deliver, which is around business transformation and business value by adopting tools and automation. So that's a bit around that stream. There are webinars on it. There will be collaterals on it, and there will be a roundtable on it coming up shortly with industry leaders in our business. Next slide. So the sourcing ecosystem. So Rick champions the sourcing, strategic sourcing work stream. This is around the sourcing ecosystem, and we have Ravi Vera on the call, who really champions this alongside Matt Sims. And what we're developing this is, it started off really looking at last year, the SME marketplace, and the innovation that comes from that marketplace is huge, but sometimes it gets deafened by the enterprise buyers putting in place onerous contract terms, payment terms that actually stops that innovation flow. So it developed from last year, and what we've developed is an entrepreneurs club. So it's not just SMEs, it's organizations that bring in thought leadership, innovation, SMEs that need help. So these are typically smaller companies that are trying to navigate themselves through the complex world. Clearly, it's got a bit harder for them over the last few months in terms of cash and cash flow issues and access to market. So this club is being formed. It's a primary offering within the GSA portfolio. It includes all sorts of sharing of knowledge, of templates, of businesses that have gone through this, have developed collateral themselves, and those are going to be openly shared with the Entrepreneurs Club to use in their own businesses. We also have the partner platform, which is signed up to by a lot of organisations within our membership base, but we want to extend that to hundreds of organisations around putting their credentials on the partner platform and actively gaining feedback in the marketplace that actually shows how good they are, or getting feedback to constantly improve their reputation and market within that. We're also, which is my one of my actions, is to deliver the industry code of conduct, which is actually the best practice around how do these organisations thrive in the jungle that they have to operate. And we've got a good draft of that in terms of what is best practice in terms of procurement and responding to procurement, payment terms, interacting with smaller companies. How do you breed innovation? How do you actually work with organisations in those sorts of environments? How should big companies and big suppliers actually be more mandated to work with smaller companies? So that's a key work stream, and I'm really thankful for Ravi and Matt really driving that hard. Next slide, which I think is my last slide before I hand over to Sunita. And the one of the other streams is customer experience, and William Carson is leading this stream. I think, again, this stream has transformed dramatically over the last 3 or 4 months. So what we thought around customer experience, and clearly CX was key to everything we were doing, has in some ways been turned on its head, but the core principles of CX and value, interaction, understanding the consumer or the buyer in every case holds true. But the industry needs to think through, and is thinking through, new delivery models for delivering. What does customer service provider 2.0 look like? And so we've developed a think tank for this. Papers are being written around what does CX look like now, and we will hold a number of interactive sessions around debating and brainstorming. What does CX look like now? What does it look like in the future? And what is best practice across the globe in terms of bringing that to the fore? So thank you for the council members that are leading that. I do really think we're driving a different agenda across those streams, and to the benefit of all of our members and the industry worldwide. Thank you. Over to Sunita. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, there's just one slide from me, which is really focused on our talent program. So we've got a talent work stream that is led by Joe Williams from Aviva, and that's really focusing on helping our members understand the competencies and capabilities they're going to need with their restarting strategies for strategic sourcing. So we've got a framework, and it's a framework that you can take and actually map the competencies and capabilities you've got within your team to look at to identify the gaps of where you need to bring in and upskill your talent. We're also calling for ambassadors to help us attract new talent into our industry. As I said earlier on, we believe there will be lots of people that are looking for a new career path, and we're hoping to attract the best talent into strategic sourcing. with all of this going on, it's really important for us to continue our work with promoting the Living Wage Foundation. I was on a virtual summit this morning, which was the Times CEO virtual summit, and they did a live poll, and 60% of the respondents said they would actually look at cutting costs of salaries to save jobs. So, you know, we're really promoting that everybody still stays well above the living wage. And then we have taken our professional development programs and moved them into an online environment. So anybody looking at just dipping in for any one stage of the strategic sourcing lifecycle model can attend a seminar, online seminar. But anybody that's looking at actually undertaking a qualification to prove their competencies in strategic sourcing, then we've got it all going online from 3 weeks from now, and you could be qualified with a GSA diploma within 12 months, or faster if you're not currently working at the moment. And our diploma is worth a third of a master's degree accredited by Portsmouth University. So expect a lot more on that, and we'll be running a seminar, a webinar that reveals our professional development program in more detail shortly. And we have run very successful mentoring programs, but those mentoring programs have been focused on women in sourcing. We're rolling those out and changing those to be much broader, to provide support to anybody working in our industry. So that's our talent. Sunita, is now definitely over to you.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, this is something that I think in the past has definitely been sort of either a taboo subject or very lightly peppered into bids, conversations, sometimes contracts, and often has a reaction and reactive steps as opposed to proactivity. I think absolutely here we want to really echo that respect matters, equality matters, fairness matters, inclusion matters. And, you know, we all share a responsibility to uphold this, and, you know, it's a duty that we have across the industry, across the way we live, the way we conduct ourselves. And I think recent times have also kind of showed and demonstrated that this is really pivotal in the way that we lead and path our way to success. There is a lot of awareness around the, you know, good health and optimism as key considerations, especially now as we go into remobilisation post-COVID-19. But in the same way, we need to understand that diversity and equal representation are you know, take a front foot and are central, pivotal in everything that we do and how we conduct ourselves. Can I have the next slide, please? I think it's fair to say, and I'm very proud to say, that the GSA is uniquely and excellently positioned to lead and assist the sourcing industry on a journey into the new normal, not only from a strategic sourcing perspective and the way we've conducted strategic sourcing to date, but with an enhanced and heightened focus on inclusion and diversity. I think it's absolutely necessary for the future of sourcing that these inclusion and diversity are platformed and embedded into sourcing genetics and overall and the overall procurement DNA. I'm excited, the GSA is excited to run this work stream and address the areas such as why is diversity and inclusion so important in sourcing and procurement. What can we do collectively across the industry in all the roles that we perform? How far does it stretch into supply chains? Is supplier diversity a consideration? You know, supplier diversity has been sort of rumoured around sourcing and the way procurement is led. However, it's not been the forefront, but I think going forward, it absolutely has to be. You know, it could be supporting a corporate CSR program, and it should be alignment with that kind of mandate. It also adds economic value as well. So they are the kind of benefits that we can expect from supplier diversity. I really want this work stream to deliver targets. I want it to have palpable benefits, and I really want people to buy into this, to produce
Unknown
case
participant is now exiting.
but also actually indulge in the benefits that supplier diversity brings, you know, from the various dynamics of having a diverse and inclusive supplier-based supply chain.
Okay, and actually onto that point, Sunita, Ravi, I think it's on Monday, isn't it? It's an MSD UK event, and I'm speaking at a panel that you, Ravi, are chairing, that looks at how we can bring more ethnic minority-led businesses into enterprise supply chains. So, so that's something on Monday if anybody's interested in that subject. So thank you, Sunita. Moving on to doing something great. So yeah, so sorry, I thought you were doing this slide. So we've also got a sustainability work stream. Sustainability is being led by Marco Corrado at Aviva, and this will be looking at every topic in sustainability, from fourth party assurance, the Modern Slavery Act, through to carbon footprints. So you know, sustainability a big part of our agenda. Now I'm speeding up because I'm very mindful of time. We are out of time. So fortunately, this is the last slide. It's just really a shout out and a commitment that the work that the GSA is doing. We've given you a really, really top level view of everything that we're actually undertaking and what we're committing to do for the industry. We will be going and publishing all the information on our website tomorrow, so you'll be able to sign up to all of those working groups and register for any of the events that we've got from the website tomorrow, and the full manifesto will be published there. Expect a really big announcement from the GSA on Tuesday, and by the end of next week we'll have published our full response to COVID-19, which is that 50-page repository that I mentioned before. We will be championing our members, so we champion best practice, and we do invite all of our full corporate members to really get involved in our sourcing TV programs. So this is live video interviews on your challenges, your visions, your views, your thoughts on best practice, and getting involved in all the community hubs we've got. So I don't know if many of you will have noticed, but we've actually got a new website now. It doesn't look massively different, but the technology infrastructure in the back end is completely overhauled, so we can have any community hub we like, and anybody can actively get involved and post to that, upload their press releases, and start really sharing what our members are doing in a much more collaborative way. So on that, I thought we'd move into a sourcing social, which would be everybody grabbing a drink of their choice and staying online to maybe discuss what you think of the manifesto that GSA has presented. If you need to go, then thank you very much for joining, but please do get in touch. And thank you to everybody that's participated in presenting today. So to the GSA Council members and to Graham Matheson from John Lewis. So I'm going to close the deck down and hopefully still see some faces that are willing to stay on and have a chat about what we've been discussing. So there are still some people here. That's great. Wonderful. So